fantastic. We have got a a brilliant podcast for you tonight. We've got two guests. We're going to have Dima and we're going to have Bryan, who are members of a group here in Moscow that's about expat parents and encouraging their bilingual kids to talk together. I believe they've got over about 4,000 members, and we'll be starting very shortly. Yeah, I think we'll just gonna let Dima in now. Yeah, let him in. Yeah, come. There we go. That's it.
Hi,
Dima,
John.
hello.
Can you see me?
I've got audio, no visual just
I
yet. I've
can
got the
barely
name
hear you.
Dimitri
Hold on,
plastered
hold
on my
on.
screen.
Uh-huh. So is Bryan with us now? Or
Bryan messaged me a couple minutes ago, and he said he would. Well, I told him we'd start about 7:30, so he may be along in a couple of minutes. I think he should be joining us. Yeah, he should be with us very shortly. I think
I see. So
he's been in contact.
I'm doing my best to, but I think I can see me
No worries.
maybe this way.
Camera issue. And
What do you
hello,
think? Uh,
Dima. Hello, fantastic. How are you?
Hi, yeah.
We got the camera working.
So I'm great. I'm doing great. What about you?
Yeah, I'm
How are you
wonderful. Thank
doing?
you. You went for a walk with some of the guys earlier from the group.
As usual, as always on weekends,
Yeah,
with
fantastic.
our Angloparents, with English-speaking experts, not necessarily from English-speaking countries, but also from. Today we were having a meeting with an expert from Denmark and from Israel and a family from Jamaica. They'll be speaking English to their kids since birth too, because Danish is not very like popular language
Well,
in Russia.
I'm aware. Yes.
Yes, pretty much. So he decided to speak English to his kids, and last weekend we were having a big stroll in Petrovsky Park where Bryan lives with 7 American families. There was even a lady, Russian lady living in San Francisco, and she came here on vacation with her kids born there in the US to touch base with their relatives and Russian speaking friends. So they speak English better than Russian. So I don't quite understand why they join our trolls, but maybe just for fun. Because my trolls are primarily for those who live in Russia.
Yeah.
Is Bryan connecting?
Bryan's just joined us. Yeah.
Bryan, are you here?
I'm in. Bryan, hello.
Oh, let me turn that video on.
Hello,
Okay.
Bryan.
Hey guys. What's
Big
up?
welcome. Hello. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
Fantastic. Dima was just telling us about the event today, the walk today. Were you part of that?
No, I was not. I had some work to do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Last weekend he was. Last weekend we were having a big stroll. Do you remember, Bryan? At
Yeah.
Petrovsky Park
Mhm.
with a lot of American families. There was a Russian lady living in the US, and there was Tom from the UK and some other guys. I don't remember even exactly
Yes, I remember that.
what countries they were from.
Yeah.
But most Americans join our strolls for some reason.
Yeah. So some background for anyone watching in theory. So you guys are part of Moscow Pals. That's the group.
You mean that Telegram group?
Yeah, that's the Telegram group. That's the. Am I correct? That's like the correct name. That's the main thing for it.
It's not Dimitri's group. It's a different group.
Yeah.
But I happen to be in there, but I basically don't interact with it very much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that was the Telegram group that I think was sent through to me. And you've got the group with all the expats and things. It seems like a big list that you got Americans and Israelis in there as well.
Most
Mhm.
American families, yes, but
Yeah,
we have a lot of and at our strolls.
yeah. Princess. And whereabouts do you guys go? So like when you're on your walk today, whereabouts do you visit in Moscow? What sort of places do you go to?
We usually hang out in playgrounds since we are usually have little kids, but we are organized strolls for any age. Like every once in a while, parents with their kids 10, 12, 8 years old join us, but also in playgrounds, in parks, in cafes, well, wherever you want. So it is up to you. Everybody can organize a stroll. And today we are hang out in a playground in Medvedkovo. It's in the northeast. And tomorrow we're going to have a stroll with Bryan again at Petrovsky Park,
Yep.
at Dynamo Subway.
Yeah.
So we always play by ear. So it's never we never have any um plans beforehand what we're going to be doing. We also have a lot of English activities for free, but everybody is supposed to be involved. Usually we have either Russians speaking fluent English at a high level. A lot of them have lived abroad, usually in the US, and they moved here either with their kids who were born there or without kids, and they gave birth here in Russia, and they decided to speak English with them because they speak fluent English. Also, we have a lot of expats from English-speaking countries, usually even from India, from South Africa. We have members from New Zealand, from Australia, from Ireland, some families from Latin America, from Denmark, from Germany, and everybody speaks English to their kids. It's what we have in common
Yeah.
since
That
birth.
is that's a big group of people. That's
About
if
500 members on WhatsApp and 600 members on Telegram.
geez, that's a lot. That's an impressive amount. And then then predominantly it's like expats and foreigners who are
Usually mixed families with
yeah,
Russian waves mostly, and
yeah,
we have some families where both parents are expats. Quite a lot of them, maybe 30 or 35 families with both expats. But usually there are families with Russian wives, sometimes with Russian husbands. A lot of Russian families where Russians have lived abroad in the US and they moved to
yeah,
Russia. And so it's usually this kind. Oh, a lot of English teachers. Almost everyone is an English teacher. I'm not,
yeah,
but maybe on 90 or 5% of them are English teachers, both Russians and native speakers.
yeah. Yeah, that's the case. There are plenty of English teachers around at the minute. So are you both from Moscow? Right. Well,
I mean,
Bryan, I assume you might be from somewhere else.
I wouldn't say I'm from Moscow, but I'm living
Yeah,
in Moscow at the moment. I born and raised in the US. I don't even have
yeah,
Russian ancestry, so just, red-blooded American, but came
yeah.
here about 5 years ago, and yeah, now I'm living in Moscow near Petrovsky Park or, Dynamo Subway. So yeah.
Yeah. And was it like the family connection? Was that one of the motivations for you to leave the US and come live in Russia?
So of course, a lot of us don't like the direction things are going in the West. You hear
Yeah,
this from everybody. So
yeah,
in
yeah,
my case, I just had a friend who did some traveling, and he had taught ESL for like 4 years here.
yeah, yeah,
And we just had this conversation. I didn't even know what ESL was at the time, really, teaching English as
yeah,
a foreign
yeah,
language.
yeah,
And so I just asked him about that. I was like, dude, that's so cool. You taught English in Russia? Like, that's so legit.
yeah,
Like, I could never do that. And he's like, oh, yeah, you could. He's like, you could. I'm like, no, trust me, I could not do that. And he actually
yeah,
started arguing with me, and we argued about how whether I could or not do it.
yeah,
And he's like, if you're interested in checking out Russia, you could give this thing a try. I could get you in contact with my previous employer. And so actually, I went ahead with that. I studied Russian for about a year, which he told me I didn't even need to do. And, took some like TEFL course and came out here. And yeah, most of the time I'd been in Russia, I was actually teaching English as well. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty it's a pretty unique experience coming here to
Mhm.
do it. We're both at about the 5 year mark. So I came in about 2019. So I think you probably came here about the same time.
Yeah, I came in December 2019, like a month before the COVID thing started.
Yeah, exactly the same. That was the first year of
Yeah.
experience. What was the okay, fantastic. And your first employer was in Moscow. So predominantly you've been pretty settled in Moscow the whole 5 years.
Yeah, pretty much. As far as a relationship thing, yeah, like in most cases, I met a Russian girl right away, and we just, well, things worked out. We got married in less than a year of me being here, and so I actually moved around a bit with her. I lived in this area. I'm not sure what the proper name is. Some people call it Federnova. Some people call it like Железная Дорожная,
Yeah.
like something like
That's it.
that. But or Chornai or whatever. Like there's like 5 different names for this area depending on what exact specific, you want to emphasize. But anyway, I was living there for like a year, but because I'm always working in Moscow, I'm like we have got to stop this. We have got to move back to Moscow because this is just this transport is just not working.
Yeah.
So now, thank God, we've been back in Moscow for like a year, and hopefully we'll stay in this area.
Did you notice a huge difference between Moscow and the outskirts of the city? I mean, if it wasn't for the commute and the work situation, would you consider staying in the outskirts as opposed to like city center?
Um, like for me, like I never thought I was a big city person in the US, but in Russia it just feels different. Like Moscow really feels like that's where all the life is for me. I don't know. It probably hits
Yeah.
different people differently, but I just like Moscow much better. For work, obviously, but even without work, it's just like it feels like there's just nothing to do if you're in another area, you know?
Yeah.
At least it hits me like that.
Yeah, I have well I mean I lived in Nizhny Novgorod for about a year in
Hmm.
my first one, and it was a few weeks is nice, but you quite quickly run out of things and activities, and there are not so many people around. Uh,
Yeah,
so
and
so I can imagine the outskirts would be that, because Nizhny is not a small city. It's not Moscow, but it's still not
mhm.
small. But I certainly felt that after a few months that it was the activities were not huge.
And actually, you know what? That's a really big thing I forgot about is that you can't really find expats if you're living in some area outside of Moscow. So
It's an
I
issue.
forgot, but that was actually another big motivation. Like the
Yeah.
travel plus that, I'm like, I want more English environment for my kids. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about this during the podcast, but I was like, I could not even find anybody who
Yeah.
understood me at all.
Yeah.
So Moscow is the place for me right now.
It's there's still a lot of diversity here. Yeah. So
Hmm.
the meeting people and the connections is fantastic when you're around the center. Uh,
Yeah.
did you two, so like Dima, did you two both, did you meet through this group? Is that how you like kind of got to know each other, that you independently found the expat families groups that you have at the moment?
Brian just joined the group, and we
Yeah.
had a small, and he liked the idea because it's a mutually beneficial cooperation for both sides. I mean, for both English-speaking experts and for Russians
Yeah.
who have bilingual kids spoken English from since birth, especially if there were kids who were born and raised in English-speaking country and they moved to Russia. Um, uh, that's the English environment for their kids outdoors, and Brian got my idea. I didn't have to explain to him for a long time how it works, unlike some others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd already been through some experiences, already been here a few years, already had my mindset on how things should be, and it's pretty similar to how Dimitri thinks. So, yeah, we kicked it off right away.
Yeah. So you're like a veteran of the expat groups.
Yeah.
Because
I know how this works.
the
Yeah.
point is that whenever we come to a playground in Moscow,
Yeah.
it is not like in the Netherlands or in other country where a lot of people speak fluent English. Nobody understands you, and all the kids only speak Russian to your kids. It's not about English environment even if you're native speaker, especially
Mhm.
if you're married to Russian wives, or if you mostly have Russian environment outdoors, and English is mostly at home, especially if your kid attends Russian state kindergarten or school. And if you want to surround your kids by other English-speaking kids who would speak English as a first language, it would be much better for them. And because one parent is not enough to raise their balanced bilingual kids.
Yeah.
Even in the US, we have a lot of families whose kids were born in the US and raised there, and they had the same problem with the Russian language. But they even with families where both parents were Russians, their kids spoke English way better than English, or no, the other way around. Their kids
Yeah,
spoke
English way better than Russian.
Yeah.
Russian, and they spoke quite broken Russian and a heavy English accent, but they were only spoken Russian since birth by their Russian parents. And some of them had this kind of groups like on WhatsApp, on Telegram, like we have here in Russia, and they used to meet up with each other in Russian, and their kids were supposed to play with each other in Russian. And sometimes it helped, sometimes it did not, so it depended. But they had to meet up with other Russians and with other Russian-speaking kids because they couldn't raise their kid on their own. And even in Moscow, you can't just go to a random playground and like bump into some native English speakers with their kids who would speak English as the first one, especially within one district. Usually they don't have any neighbors who are also native English speakers raising bilingual kids. That's why they need this group to make friends of just for the sake of their kids and to have a play date in English and in their district, preferably in their district. So it's very important not to go far. For example, in Bryan's case, it's I think it is crucial, right, Bryan? So
Yeah.
that it could meet up with others in your district, in your area.
Yeah, for sure. And it's very hard for me to travel a long distance as well. So yeah, it's good that we can have meetups in Petrovsky Park. It helps me a lot.
Yeah, the locations, the fact that Moscow is so easy to travel around within the center is a big help, I think, for a lot of these meetings.
It's a huge city. It's a huge city, yes.
Yeah. So when you first started the group, what was the kind of initial motivation, and how many people were initially involved, and what effect did this have on the ability to grow the group? Because it's a huge group now, so it's like 500 people, which is an impressive number. How did you get from I've got this idea of let's start a group and try and do some meetups to getting to we have 500 members and we meet up every weekend in cafes and parks and wherever?
Initially, I just wanted to find other neighbors with English-speaking kids who, because I felt kind of uncomfortable speaking English to my kids in the playground where nobody understood us and everybody was wondering where I was from. When I since birth, I started speaking English to my daughter, and when she turned maybe 2 years old, I started looking for other neighbors in my district. Initially, it was only for my sake to look for other neighbors within my district, and that's all, either Russians or English-speaking expats. And then it just it was growing and growing in our community until we managed to find others, first in the north, then all over Moscow. Because I think even English-speaking expats, I think they feel uncomfortable when on the day speaking English to their kid in the playground, and everybody is trying to play with their kids in Russian, and they answer in English, and nobody understands them.
Yeah.
That it is a burden. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know a lot of expats, American, British expats, and their kids quite often answer in Russian to them. So they're only spoken English since birth.
Yeah.
But they barely have any English-speaking kids, and they meet up with other English-speaking kids, like kids of other American expats, barely 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And it's not about friendship. It's not about making acquaintances and friends in English, and they sometimes they even speak Russian with each other. Even
Yeah.
kids of two American families, they speak Russian with each other because they're not used to be surrounded by other English-speaking kids on a regular basis, like weekly or daily. And if it is once a month, it is nothing. So they don't understand. They can't understand why they have to speak English in Russia, even with parents who are native speakers. In that case, so they need the environment outdoors, unless they attend in English kindergarten or English school. But first of all, it's very expensive and unaffordable for most of parents. And secondly, they don't have any selection of kids in this kindergarten. So maybe 78 or sometimes 90% of those kids are not spoken English by their parents. So they're not bilinguals. And quite often they prefer speaking Russian to each other, even in this kindergarten. So it's not a solution. And in our group as Charles, almost all of our kids have spoken English at home since birth. They speak English as a first language, and they usually choose English while playing with each other. So that's the point of our group, and that is for free. You don't have to pay any money for kindergarten for charge or for any private daycare. You can just attend to your Russian or Russian state kindergarten or state school and just attend our strolls. Or attend a private Russian kindergarten, like Bryan has been running a private Russian English kindergarten, like bilingual one, but at the same price as any Russian private kindergarten without any English. And we can tell Josh more about a kindergarten.
Yeah, sure. So we opened one here near where we live. In fact, this is why we moved to this area, because I started pressuring my wife, like, I have experience in ESL and my kids are about to go to kindergarten, and like, I'm really worried for their English level. So I'm like, let's open up our own. There's multiple reasons why we should open up our own. And she was not raised in a family where business was at all a promoted thing. So it was kind of a tough sell, so to speak. But finally, I was able to convince her, and we were able to make this move. And we ended up buying from a franchise. We chose Smilefish. I looked at multiple different brands, but I decided this was the one I liked the most. And from the beginning, I emphasized, like, I want there to be an English-friendly environment, at the very minimum. So even if it's not somebody who speaks English, there is somebody who's prepared for somebody who does speak English, So we have some English-speaking employees, Russian-speaking employees, but it's like that.
But the environment is, we while we're here, we speak as much English as we can, and
because when Dimitri mentioned English-speaking kindergartens in Russia, I'm sure you know this, being in ESL or having some experience with ESL, right? But when they say English-speaking kindergarten, like in most cases, not one of the kids that goes there is spoken English to at home. It's a total foreign language for every kid. Even if they've been there for years, they still just speak Russian all the time. The English is atrocious. And the people who work there, most of them hate English, and they get angry at you if you speak English to them. But it says on the sign outside, English kindergarten, probably in Russian, but it says English kindergarten. It's like that. So I didn't want to be another clone of this, because there's like no point in that case.
Yeah. So how many years have you been running your kindergarten?
Actually, right now it's been about 10 months. So
10
not
months.
even a year.
Okay, so you're approaching the year mark. Whereabouts is that? Is that close to Dina?
Yeah, it's close to Petrovsky Park Metro, maybe about 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's really cool. That's you must have a lot of passion behind it to set up the kindergarten.
The number one motivator is my kids, because I wanted to be like the best environment for my kids. And with that in mind, it's very easy to extend that to everybody else, because I just provide the same value to everybody else's kids that I do to mine.
Of like, here is a safe and comfortable environment.
Yes.
Come and speak English and grow.
Yes.
And learn. Fantastic. So your kid will be, well, if she starts in kindergarten, would that be like 3-4 years old then?
I have twins, actually. Man, it's been a trip, let me tell you.
Jeez,
But I have twins.
Wow.
twin boy and girl.
Journey.
Yeah, it's just crazy, really. But I have a twin boy and girl, and they'll be turning 3 in, I think, 4 days now, July 17th. So Yeah, we'll be celebrating their birthday there, but man, like I see people that have kids and like they complain like, "Oh, this is so hard." Like they have their first kid and they're like, "Oh, I had no idea how hard it would be." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Bro, you have no idea still.
Wow.
Trust
That is
me."
no idea times two. Yeah.
Yeah, because and it really is times two because like the twins interact with each other and like fight, they fight over stuff, copy each other's bad
Yeah.
behaviors. So it's just nuts most of the time.
Jeez. Is your role, are you still classroom teaching, or did opening the kindergarten, was that kind of also a decision to step back and look at more sort of the management side of
Yeah,
kindergarten?
definitely. I was looking to
Yeah.
step back because by then I was already burnt out, because I've been doing nothing but ESL full time and like most dudes cannot handle that for several years. And so
Yeah.
like, yeah, so I was there and I'm like, there's plenty of people to do this, plenty of people that are willing to do this. I'm going to try to allow them to fill this void and I'll just be like, the mentor at most and step back. But I supervise what's going on a lot. And since I own the place, I'm very flexible and I'm always looking for ways to improve. And like if somebody wants to work for us, I'm like super negotiable about like times, prices, conditions, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm still working on it, but it's better now than it's ever been, and we're gonna keep going.
Well, that's the direction you got to go in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just figure it out, see how you can improve it, and then keep going with it. No, it sounds right. I mean, you're very motivated as well. If you've got your own kids there, then
Yes.
like you want to make that the best place.
Yeah,
And
because
that's a pretty good guarantee for anyone attending your kindergarten.
absolutely, because we've had several people tell us like especially even like Russian business people, they've been like, why would you choose this business of all things? Why would you, open up a kindergarten business? It's like the worst business ever, and blah, 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 all this negative stuff, all this discouraging stuff. And
Yeah,
it really hits my wife hard hearing all this. But I'm like, even if all that is true, it's still the absolute best business just because it's for our kids. And I mean,
yeah,
like, just because of that, because it's our kids' business too, it makes it like the best,
yeah.
you
Yeah, it's
know?
like a whole family thing.
Yeah, it's a
Even though they're
truly
4 years old,
family business. Yeah.
you can get them to start doing the accounting and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
here's your math homework. It's how much money
Yeah. Yeah.
we made
Yeah.
this month. Well done, kids. Here's your salary. Fantastic. Dima, have you got kids as well? But were they part of like a big part of the motivation of starting the group in the first place?
So yeah, sure. It's for my daughter's sake, first of all,
Yeah,
because I do that for free. It's my second job
yeah,
where I never get paid, and but I spend a lot of time for organizing channels. But everybody is supposed to text on the comment chat that they are going to meet up at such a place at such a time. But uh, usually I arrange channels all over Moscow, mostly in the north. But I think lately, people have been organizing their channels on their own. I mean, sometimes even without me. So that's exactly what I was gonna for. So hopefully it will work out, and yeah,
yeah.
because I encourage people to meet up with each other, but it's quite often it is very hard to meet up with unfamiliar people. Especially some people are introverts, some are extroverts. But for the sake of their kids, for the sake of their English, sometimes they're ready to do that. And I always recommend that they meet up with the same people every time, so that they could feel comfortable. So like, they could just find some some other parents they're comfortable with and who they get along with, and then to meet up with them on their own. Just text about it on the comment chat or just private message them.
So so Bryan, you've lived in Moscow about 5 years. Uh,
Yeah.
Dima, you guys have both been part of the group for known each other about how long did you say? About a year now? Or
Maybe a
Maybe
year.
about a year. Yeah. I
About a
can't
about a
year.
remember.
year?
So I started this group 2 years ago, even 2 years and 3 months ago. And a year ago, I met Bryan.
Yeah,
We threw a stroll somewhere in the east of Moscow, even in the Moscow region. where I think where Bryan lives, right? Well, where he used to live, before he moved to Dynamo, and another American parent joined us, Adam from Oregon, neighboring state with Washington, where Bryan is from, and he also liked my idea, and we started meeting up. I think weekly with Adam. I mean, during the summer, at least in the summer, and now he was doing his shows with us. So he also liked this idea a lot, and a lot of other American expats supported me and started meeting up with each other too. With the British parents, it was a bit harder because maybe a bit another mentality. I think Americans are pretty maybe outgoing and very sociable because it's a nation of entrepreneurs and businessmen. Maybe that's why it's much easier to make acquaintances with Americans, even much easier than with Russians. Because the Russians, they're rather like British.
We Brits are just.
It's easier to make close friends with Russians and the British, but when it comes just to acquaintances, just yes, like random people, it is always about Americans.
They're the masters of.
What I've noticed, so I think Russians are closer to British in this kind of relationship.
Yeah, we're all about customer service, so.
Customer service,
yeah, customer service mentality. I would add to your list. Maybe pioneer mentality, but just like that, just all about like trying new things, open to new experiences, stuff like that.
24/7 customer service.
Yeah,
like, even in bed, big smile, ready.
Yeah, it's so ingrained that we do it without even realizing it.
Yeah,
because Russians and British, I think sometimes we are just very sullen and grumpy when we meet unfamiliar people, but Americans, they're always smile to everyone, like always in a
I would say you could have a spectrum with like Russian being over here, American being over here. British would be somewhere in the middle, maybe. I don't know. Definitely not all the way over on the Russian side, but something like that.
Take the crown on that one.
Yeah.
No, British. I mean, the British are very polite, but I mean, they're not that open. I don't know, that outgoing when it comes to making acquaintances and networking.
Well, I know we went to Turkey for a vacation a few months ago, and it was a Russian tour, this behavior you're describing, like very closed and stuff like that, like just 100%, of course. So we're in Turkey, and I saw a bunch of Russians there, Polish, a few Germans, and some British. And without question, the British were the most outgoing. Like they talked to me even though they didn't know me. I'm like, wow. Like it was in contrast, having lived in Russia for a while, I'm like, this was like a big difference.
Okay, yes, but there might be somewhere in the middle between Russians and Americans.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I've from the stereotypes I've heard. I can't say I've been to the US, so I can't really comment, but from the stereotypes I've heard, Americans super friendly.
If we generalize, yes, but because I hate any generalizations because there are a lot of introverts too in the US, so it's
Yeah, you can find everybody everywhere, but it's just a matter of numbers, just a matter of percentages, So I'd say just percentage-wise, Americans are more like that, and Russians are more like, the other way. So stereotypes are always somewhat true, I think. There's always some level of truth to them, but it's about numbers, really.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I think the attitudes of other people affect other people, and that builds kind of an overall culture. I guess would be some kind of contribution to it. That's cool. So I'm glad the Brits were friendly in Turkey.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
Because I'm concerned that during the Euros, we're gonna our reputation.
During the what now?
During the Euros.
During the Euros, is this like sports thing?
Yeah, well, the Euros is like the European football tournament.
Oh yeah, like
our football hooligans go out and trash places and throw beer everywhere and.
Oh yeah.
So I'm glad that they've given you a positive reception for tourism.
Well, British tourists in Turkey are like 5 stars.
Yeah, the best tourists. Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, that's good. So when you guys have been out together quite a lot on sort of the group adventure things. Well, the weekend walks, as we can call them. Are there any particularly memorable experiences or like particularly interesting events that you might have been on in the past?
Mm-hmm. Not maybe funny, but a bit unpleasant situations. Usually, everybody is all right without speaking English
yeah.
on ourselves. But I remember we are gathering up at the library at Tverskaya subway, and there was a guy. He said there were maybe 3 or 4 American families there without Brian back then, maybe a British family and some Russian Angloparents. And we were told by a guy that Russia is only for people speaking Russian and please speak Russian here. And I was like, they're Americans that just came here. They have been learning Russian, but they want to speak English to their kids, their mother tongue. They want to make them bilinguals. And he was like, I don't care. You got to speak Russian at the library. I was like, what if they are just tourists and they just came here on vacation? They're not going to live here. And I asked him when he goes on vacation to Turkey, does he speak only Turkish with his friends and with his friends, with his kids and relatives? And he was like, "It's none of your business," and he was gone.
Oh, you just destroyed him. That was just the best
He just
argument.
gave up and he decided to leave. Yes.
Yeah.
But it was only the only one case because usually people they're not aggressive at all. I mean, they are either try to not escape from us, but they just try to like stand aside or they ask questions where we are from and uh, do our kids really speak English? And they usually admire us. So it is worth admiring, I think, in most cases. But sometimes it happens every once in a while. I think the same thing maybe would happen somewhere in the U.S. where people would say like we gotta speak English here, but there are like this kind of people everywhere, I think. So
Yeah. In the US, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would think that and want to say that, but probably very few that actually would.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, predominantly, I'd say my experience is also in the realms of 99% of the time, people are very okay with speaking English, and generally people will try and speak English to you. Yeah, most of the time that's the situation. I like you, Dean, right? I've had in my 5 years here, I think I've had one situation where I've had a "this is Russia, you need to speak."
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's like meeting hundreds, thousands of people over 5 years. So that's
I think your ratio is pretty good because I've had quite a few,
yeah,
but
every
I think
day.
it has to do with the area, and I've
Yeah,
also spent a lot of time in some, by comparison to Moscow, kind of trash areas.
yeah,
So yeah, it depends where. If you spend the whole time in the center of Moscow, you'll probably do much better.
I think
definitely
yeah. 4 out of 5 years,
downtown
I'd say.
Hmm.
Yeah. If you go further out, then you get more of the yeah,
Yeah.
that kind. Yeah, absolutely.
But in the
Did,
same way as I know in New York you can go somewhere and get robbed, and maybe there is even more probability of getting robbed in New York than in Moscow. So
I mean, as
in
far as
Moscow,
getting
a lot of
robbed
positive,
goes, I'd say probably for sure. Yeah, like
yes,
because
a
I've
lot of
heard
like downsides and a lot of advantages of living in Moscow.
yeah.
Maybe not in Russia, but in Moscow specifically, because and for example, in New York we were having a stroll. I remember with a guy from New York, and I left my guitar and my backpack somewhere in one on one side of a playground, and we moved to another one to a neighboring playground, and he was like, in New York, your backpack would be gone for
Yeah.
say, even 5-10 minutes. So, but in Moscow, it usually nobody needs that in most cases.
yeah, my experience has been the same. I've also had situations where I have left something, well, I've accidentally left something somewhere, then I've come back for it, and my thought has been, it's like, wow, if that had been in London,
Yeah, it's
that
over.
Even
would have been
compared to
gone.
London, so it's pretty safe here in Moscow, much safer than in many American big cities, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to
In
come to
London.
Moscow, join the English groups. No need to be in America.
Hmm.
That's it. Brian, do you find that the people that send their children to your kindergarten, are they quite often involved in like groups and extra English stuff? And for example, yours and Dimitri's group, do you get a lot of like extra interest in people doing things with them?
Well, at the moment, it's mostly just Russian parents who just are
Yeah,
looking for a good, option for their kids and end up sending them to ours.
yeah,
So the problem is that, there's very few Anglo parents living around my area, or at least active ones. So I really haven't even been able to talk to most of them about it yet. So yeah, at the moment it's basically Russian parents, but I'd say maybe 30% of them are like very positive about the English thing, like they really want it, and as much as
yeah,
possible.
yeah. Would you say there is any in your experience of teaching ESL and your experience of running the kindergarten, which is an impressive feat in a foreign country? That's remarkable.
Yeah, thank you.
Um,
Well, my wife helped a lot, of course, with
yeah,
a lot of the paperwork and documents. Like that, I just could not do that nightmare, obviously.
it's in a second language. Yeah, yeah, that's bad enough in the mother tongue. But then, well, kudos to your
Yeah.
wife for getting on board and working everything out. Um, in terms of your experience, would you, if someone were to attend
Mhm.
a bilingual kindergarten or an English speaking kindergarten, would you give any time frame, or for children to kind of become conversational or start speaking, or what would be your experience of um, how long does it usually take for a child to become comfortable when communicating in a different language? Or
So
how many
are you
hours?
talking about like from zero?
I guess so, yeah. So
Hmm.
if they came from zero, and I appreciate there are a number of factors that are
Hmm.
involved in this, whether the parents speak English to them at home,
Yeah, for sure.
what they watch on TV at home. I appreciate a number of things. Um,
Yeah, for sure. It's always longer than anyone would want it to be, for sure. And I know
yeah,
you've seen this. So yeah, it depends on the situation. I'd say from zero, it also depends on the age. So like in my opinion, if they're younger than 4, it's actually better, although you won't see any progress. But I feel like if they're younger than 4, like 2 or something, and are constantly around this English environment, it would like plant seeds. And maybe when they're 4 or 5, you'll see like what looks like very fast growth of the language, but actually it was being implanted in them for these 2 years and you just never noticed it. So that's one thing. If the kid already is like totally native in Russian, so they're 4 or 5 plus, I feel like they're probably more resistant. And for them, it's really more like a foreign language. And so that's why I wanted my kids, from birth, obviously, to have English exposure. So I always recommend as early as possible is better. Okay, so if it's like, let's say it's a 2-year-old, I'd say probably don't expect to see much until they're 4 or 5. Although I can say we do have a 2-year-old that comes to our place who started from zero, and he repeats lots of English words and he uses lots of English words like for when he wants something. So that could very well happen as well.
is there, to your knowledge, any degree of uh the parents are quite open to English? I mean, do the parents speak English at home, or do they speak English at all? Or
Right, you're talking about with this particular kid, right?
yeah,
I'd say no, they speak zero. Like the mom,
yeah,
as far as I know, the mom really doesn't know English at all. The
right,
dad speaks English well, but he doesn't use it, I think. I think he only uses it with me. Like
yeah,
maybe in his job or business or something, he might use it, but not with the family, as far as I know.
yeah. Not when he goes home and
Yeah.
speaks
So,
properly.
I mean, if they did, that would probably help. Of course, it helps. Like the parents are really one of the biggest factors in pretty much any case.
Yeah,
But in this case, no, just a pure Russian environment at home. It has 2 older brothers who speak Russian all the time. But yeah, I guess just in our environment. Well, he was like, I think he was actually our first official client, actually, because we got
yeah.
several at first, but I think he was
At the
actually the
start,
first one to sign.
yeah,
So I guess that has something to do with it as well.
yeah. That's yeah. I would. It definitely makes a huge difference to speaking English at home, and
Hmm.
even if they'll come and still speak English to you,
Yeah, absolutely. Because really,
usually,
even for my kids,
yeah,
well, obviously, the daycare is just a support, no matter
yeah,
how much English is there. Because you're always going to have kids that speak Russian all the time. You know, it's impossible to staff the place with people who speak only English. So, you know, at least half of the staff is going to be speaking Russian at least half of the time. So the most I can do is encourage them to learn English and tell them to have a positive attitude towards it. You know, which is not the case in most English kindergartens in Russia. But at least if I can get that much done, I'm already, you know, more there than a lot of other places.
Yeah, well, I think that's the best you can do. That's the best you can do, is provide that attitude of hey, you know, we're offering all this information, and you know, jump aboard if you want.
Yeah, and for the parents, I always encourage them, if they care about English, to speak as much English as possible, regardless of what they think their level is, because that would just encourage the kid to do it, and the kid will see it's a real language and not some code that one or two people use. And also English cartoons, I think, help a lot, because we had one kid who had never been to a place like this. Mom doesn't speak any English, but she came to us and she knew like entire phrases and would use them correctly with very good pronunciation from the very beginning. And she like knew all the colors, knew all the numbers. And we asked the mom, like, how does she know this? And she's like, oh, she just watches cartoons. So that helps a lot.
And any cartoons you recommend?
Any particular cartoons?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for my kids, I like Blippi a lot, but that's more towards native, you know, geared more towards native kids or kids that already have some level of English. For kids that have zero English, like honestly, man, that's a tough one, actually. That's a tough one. But honestly, anything, because it depends on the age of the kid. But again, I would say if they're under 4, they'll be open to watching pretty much anything. Like my kids can watch a cartoon in Chinese, and they do, and they don't care that it's Chinese. They'll just watch it.
Yeah.
You know, so if you can, I would say just like with English exposure, of course, same thing with cartoons. The earlier, the better, just as early as you can. And the earlier you do it, the less you have to worry about the details, I would say.
Yeah, they'll see the sounds and they'll pick it up naturally, like a natural language.
Yeah,
I suppose. Yeah. I think that sounds spot on to what I have observed generally as well. Dima, did you ever consider sending your children to bilingual schools?
I think no, we need to pay a lot of money for her English. I think it would be enough that she only watches cartoons in English. She's been watching them since maybe 2 years old every day, and we're used to listening to audio stories in the car because there are a lot of traffic jams in Moscow, and we drive to our strolls or even to our kindergarten. It always takes time to get there, and we are maybe every single day we are listen to something in English. I mean, my daughter listens to something in English for 2 or 3 hours a day in the car. So that plus English cartoons, plus almost every single day English meetings with parents. So I think it's quite enough exposure, and we can attend Russian state school and Russian state kindergarten for free. And she speaks English at the same level as Russian, so we don't have to pay any money, almost any money for English. But I would consider like British curriculum or American curriculum, but not in an English bilingual school, but just on weekends, for example, like Lingual Club at Taganska. They provide this kind of services, and bilingual where you work, and they also have I think British curriculum, right? And Bilingual Bell has American curriculum. It might cost maybe 25,000 rubles a month, and it's pretty affordable for everyone, for all the expats and Angloparents, and they can just attend a Russian state school or a Russian state kindergarten for free. So in my opinion, so it's better to spend just 20,000 rubles a month. And we also attend art classes in English. It's about 1,500 rubles per hour and 15 minutes. There is a British artist from the UK, and she teaches kids speaking English as a first language, like 4, 5, 6 years old, in London and in Moscow at the same time. And it's just 1,500 rubles per hour and 15 minutes, just like in Russian, as expensive as in Russian. So it's not expensive, I mean, pretty affordable price. And also there are like music classes in English for bilingual kids, only for kids who speak English as a first language. Also, I managed to find a swim coach in English. She's a Russian, but she speaks fluent English without any heavy accent, so that is quite enough. And she used to live in the Arab Emirates, and she only worked with the kids who didn't speak Russian there in the not in the Arab Emirates, but in Qatar somewhere in that area. And also, we have been looking for other like coaches, teachers, tutors, like baseball in English, American football in English, any kind of activities in English, but for bilingual kids, not for the sake of English, not with English teachers. We don't need any English teachers. Maybe we only need any English teachers for to teach English as a first language, like in an American school, in a British school, like, and or English literature and all this kind of stuff, but not ESL teachers would, because our kids cannot be evaluated according to this scale, like C1, C2. It's only for kids who are speak English as a second language. And so as for international schools, it's a good idea, but I think I can't spring for it. I can't afford it at the moment. It's very expensive, and even if I could afford it, maybe I wouldn't we wouldn't attend this kind of schools, because we have beautiful, like wonderful Russian state schools. It depends on the school, sure, but and you don't have to pay any money for it. And we have a lot of universities for free. It's like about perks of living in Russia compared to the US, where almost everything is for charge. So we gotta take advantage of it and get a jump on it, and so somehow, so it is in my opinion. But if I were a wealthy person, maybe we would attend an international school for 200 grand rubles a month.
Yeah, minimum probably.
Minimum probably. Yes, I definitely can afford this sum. I think even parents who earn like 500,000-600,000 rubles a month, even they can't afford that, because I'm gonna spend 20% of my income for school when they're affordable for free. And I'm positive that when it comes to like math, teaching math, physics, and chemistry, I think Russian state schools are even better than a lot of international schools, in my opinion. Just for the sake of English, I can't see any point. It's better to attend American and British curriculum online and on weekends, and I think it would be enough with native speakers.
It sounds like you've done a phenomenal amount of research into finding all the extra teachers and like art teachers and swim teachers, and it's an impressive network of connections.
Yeah, sure. I almost know everyone who
Yeah.
who provides this kind of services for bilingual kids. And
yeah, I think you make some fair points about the international schools. I know a large, well, certainly in the past, as I'm told, a large swathe, the intention was to send them to an international school until about year 6 or 7, and then they'll get shipped off somewhere abroad. And then they'll have the most similar experience they can in Moscow as to what they will then experience if they go and study abroad. So I think that certainly used to be one of the big intentions, but as I understand, I think more people stay in Russia for their secondary schooling now. Well,
yes,
certainly now.
Yeah.
But 10, 15 years ago, as people tell me, that was the situation, that was the plan. But yeah, that's a long list of people. And you said your daughter is pretty much as good in English, as comfortable in English as she is in Russian.
At the same level, she doesn't speak Russian better than English. At the same level, like a balanced bilingual for so far. So hopefully it will last long.
Yeah, and that takes consistent effort of classes throughout the week, and pretty like meetings every weekend. So you try and give her something in English about 3 hours a day, and that's kind of
yes, almost every day we meet up with others. On weekends maybe 99% of our weekends we spend in English, surrounded by other native English speakers and Russians speaking English at a high level, and their kids who only speak English. And I think sometimes it's very difficult to raise a bilingual kid because sometimes her English outweighs and she starts translating everything word by word to Russian from English. She sounds not like a native Russian speaker, but sometimes it's the other way around. But I think that is all right. I think she'll pick up the Russian language as any other native Russian speaker a bit later. Once she goes to Russian, so far I can't say that she has an accent when she speaks Russian. I think maybe some sounds every once in a while she pronounces in English way. She can say like pearl, like with English sound pair, but it's a bit confused. System are very different in Russian and in English. But sometimes you can say some sounds in English in Russian way, like but I'm all right with that. So she's a bilingual, so that happens. So she doesn't sound like Russian like an average, like run-of-the-mill Russian monolingual kid. Sometimes you can hear some English influence in her Russian, like translation word by word from English, and it happens from time to time. But I think Bryan is not concerned about it either, right?
Not at all. Like absolutely zero. Dimitri and I talk about this a lot, actually.
Yeah.
We've come to the conclusion that one parent, one language does not work. Like this strategy does not work. It works in some cases.
Mixed families with Russians, right?
Yeah, so in 99% of cases I've seen, it's like dude from like America or Britain, and they married a Russian girl. And in these cases, like one parent, one language is just asking for Russian to completely overtake. You know, I've never seen a case where the girl only speaks Russian and the guy only speaks English and the kid's balanced. Like, never seen it. So except Dimitri's an exception, of course, but is actually Russian, which is even more impressive, probably. But yeah, I've never seen it with expats. So what I think is probably a better strategy is what they call minority language at home. And I'm trying to implement that now, but I would actually extend that to be minority language within the family, which means like at all times. You know, so in our case, minority language is English because we live in Russia. And so yeah, my kids, I would say, I feel like they're balanced now, balanced bilinguals, although it's very hard to tell if they're just about to turn 3. So we'll wait like a year or two and see.
Too young for it, I think, too young to jump to any conclusions. I mean,
yeah. But to say the other way around, I've never seen a case where one of the parents is like from the US and the kids are non-native in Russian after like a year, maybe in this country. Like the kids always are native in Russian. Like
they are 7, 8 years old. After a year, they become native Russian speakers.
Yeah.
And maybe I think it's all right when your bilingual kid makes mistakes in Russian, like a translation word by word, literally from English or some English accent when they're 3, 4, 5 years old, because by the age of 7, 8, and 9, they'll lose this slight English accent once they go to Russian state school.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So they all become native Russian speakers by default anyway, either way.
Yes, by default. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, like, somebody living in my case, like their wife will never know the pain that they will have to go through in order to achieve a balanced bilingual kid, unless they move to the US maybe early enough. Because literally, you don't have to do anything. If you're living in Russia, you do not ever have to think or try about their Russian. It will not be a problem.
But the same way in the US with Russian families in the US.
Yeah. If you're living in the US, same thing. Like, unless you just do everything in your power to keep your kid from speaking English and like construct their entire life to where they're not exposed to English, which is like impossible. It's just not going to happen. They will become native American English speakers. So as long as the kid like is born and raised.
Even if both parents, I know some cases where we have some Russian families where both parents are Russians and they both have been only speaking Russian to their kids. In the US, maybe when their kids were like 8 and 6 years old, they moved to Russia, and yet their kids had some accent in Russian.
Yeah,
and,
this is
but they had zero accent in English. I mean, and they spoke anyway English better than Russian.
Yeah,
although they were only spoken Russian everywhere in public places in the US.
Yeah, and so here in Russia, of course, it's the reverse.
Yes.
So
Well, but I think it's easier to support the English environment in Moscow than the Russian environment in the US.
I mean, I don't know. I'd say it's probably the same. Like, why do you think it's easier? Because there's just more people doing it, or what?
I think because a lot of Russians, they also speak. I mean, at least in Moscow, we have a lot of like English teachers who also speak English to their kids since birth. Much easier to find other English-speaking kids because
Okay,
in the US, you gotta only look for other Russians or Russian-speaking people with their kids. There's hardly any Americans who would speak fluent Russian without any heavy English accent, without any mistakes, who have never
Yeah.
lived in Russia. You know?
But on the other hand, if you find Russian parents that are as radical as you and I are about this in the US, it might actually be easier because in the US there's like huge like areas where there's just tons of Russians that, you know, they have their own churches, they have their own like where everybody who works for the company is Russian and stuff like this. Like this is
So
kind of how the mafia stereotype
from
came
this point
about.
of view, yes, I think I gotta agree with you because there are much more Russian-speaking immigrants in the U.S. than English-speaking immigrants in Russia, right? So much
Yeah,
more.
so it's like for example,
Comparable.
you cannot like you can find maybe like a Telegram group called Americans, you know, American group in Russia, but it's never anything. Like you cannot actually find like an American group of anything in Moscow or Russia. You just can't. It just
In
doesn't
the same way
exist.
in the UK, I think, because I know a lot of Russian expats, like Russian immigrants in the UK, so maybe it is easier to find any Russians in the UK than the British in Russia, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so in some ways we have it more like it's harder for us, I would say.
It's the other way around. It is even harder. Okay,
Yeah.
maintain the English environment here.
Yeah. Yeah, that is it's definitely a topic for debate. Um, I would probably find myself initially siding with Dima on that one, I think. As in it there are I know there are plenty of English speaking groups in Moscow. I have no idea what the numbers are like in the US. So if you're trying to find Russian speaking groups in the US, I can imagine you might have a bit more difficulty than
Yeah, well, I can just say I lived
yeah.
in Spokane, Washington,
Yeah.
which you know just typical American town. Last I checked, I think there's like 700,000 people living there, just medium-sized town. And there were multiple Russian churches where everything was in
Wow,
Russian,
wow.
stores where every single employee spoke Russian
Yeah.
as a first language. And like, you know, just like lots of Russian businesses, lots of Russian communities, and it's just some random town in the US. And I've heard
Yeah.
that there's many places like this. So like
Mhm.
let's say you're just Russian in the US and for some reason you just want to like surround your kids with a Russian community. I am sure that would be easier to do in the US than to be here as an English speaking expat and just surround your kid with a culture from your home country. Like, yeah. So if it's just about English, maybe it may not be that hard, but if you want it just to be like your home country, it's going to be just impossible. You know, if you want like only
Yeah.
British, like authentic British environment, like just forget it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And also why'd you move to another country and do that?
Yeah.
Sounds
But I'm
bad.
just saying, like, if you want that, like, it's easier
Yeah.
in the US if you move to the US.
But you know, what's the point in moving to another country and surround yourself by only the other British? If you move from the
I
UK,
know, well, like for the kids, like the same reason we
Yeah.
do the Angloparents group, right? So our
yeah.
kids can like get this environment. So it's not
Yeah.
about me, it's about the kids because I'm already native. I don't care about, you know, my
Yeah.
exposure to, you know, authentic American environment. But for the kids, you know, it's something I care about.
Yeah.
There's that. Fair enough. Yes, I got
Yeah.
you.
That's
Got
true.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't as I said, I haven't been to the US, so I couldn't consider that. But yeah, with that information, yeah, quite possibly you could have a completely Russian environment in the US somewhere.
Yeah.
No idea. That'd be an interesting one. No, or you could just go to the US and have an authentic US environment. That would be
Yeah. Well, that of course is easier.
that's the dream of yeah, fast food and burgers and chips. That's our view of what it
Yeah.
is.
And fireworks and, you know, all that good stuff.
That's it. Um, how are you guys for time? Would you guys have time for a quick game before
Yeah,
we
I
start
guess
wrapping
so.
up?
Mm.
So let me launch my little game thing. And off we go. Fantastic. So this will be that there's a selection to play from. We'll choose it. They're not specifically designed for, well, they're a bit random and quirky. So if words come up and you think, what the hell does that mean? Don't worry too much. There's a bit of a selection to choose from. I'll share my screen with you, and how it will work is that you will see the main game on the screen that I show you, and you will then connect a second device or a separate window on your computer to be your controller for the game, and that will interact with the main screen that I'm showing you. So I'll show you the screen, and then it will give us, when we choose the game, it will give us a code. We can log on, and then we can play 5 or 10 minutes.
All right. Could lag be an issue with this?
I shouldn't think so. If we've got enough internet to do the call on here, I shouldn't think lag's an issue. If lag is a huge issue, then we can cry ourselves to sleep.
All right, sounds good.
Not going on. What I think, usually we do this one, but that's because we only got 2 players. So I reckon, okay, we can either give a speech, or we can try and make some answers to a prompt. I don't know. I've only played this one before, so all right. What do we like? Talking points or Quiplash? What's the vote? What do we reckon? I don't know what they do. You don't know what they do. Give us a random vote. What's your gut saying?
All right, so the vote is between what and what again?
So I'm thinking we either do this one called Talking Points, which is about you kind of get a picture and have to talk about it, and then you'll get scored on your points. You'll score each other. The other one, I think you have to answer some prompts. So it'll give you like a prompt, and you can give it an answer, and we'll see who has the best answer for it.
I mean, I guess talking points, yeah.
Yeah. Or we can try these ones, but I think they're a bit oh, we could try these ones.
Yeah, I gotta say I'm having a little bit trouble hearing you though. Like the volume's pretty low.
It's my audio's down. All right, I can shout louder.
Yes, could you please turn the volume up with your microphone?
I'm not even sharing with you. That's why I can see it. There we go. I'm sharing with you now.
Hey, so
Alrighty.
I see it.
All right. Yeah. Let's jump on this one. We'll see how it goes. Let me share my. There we go. You should have my sound as well now. Cool. Right. I'm gonna send you guys a web address in the chat.
All right.
And if you jump on there, you should be able to put in a code and join the game.
All right, so jackbox.tv, right?
Jackbox.tv, yeah.
Okay, let me check this out.
So Jackbox
.tv, and that should come up.
My internet.
Hey,
so slow.
enter 4-letter code. Let's see.
There we go. Our 4-letter code is on the screen, so it's WAME.
Okay.
So if you pop that in, then you should pop up on the screen.
All right.
I think that, come again, please. Jackbox.tv and
yeah, and you should get a little login screen where you can open, and that will serve as your controller. Okay, WAME is our code. Yeah, JP is in.
See, it's telling me to pick my characters, so I guess I'm waiting for the other players.
I think I have. The internet is just down now.
Apparently, I can take the photo.
I'll get it loaded. I think my web browser is not responding at all.
Pick character. Let's go. Okay. go. How's your browser doing, Dima?
And my web browser is not responding. Hold on.
Go on, let's see if we can make it. Well, Brian, I think you are in charge. You are the VIP.
Waiting for one more speaker. Yes, hold on, please. And
Okay, so I still don't understand what we're actually going to be doing. Like just talking about something or what?
I'm pretty sure. I'll be honest with you. This is the first time I've played this version of these games.
Okay.
So I am guessing from the description. I believe something's going to come up, and then we have to talk about it, and then we will score each other on the pitch. They'll explain it when we click go.
Mm-hmm.
Josh,
That's
good
my
question.
guess of what.
For
of
the
what we're doing.
introduction, so enter four little codes and room codes. What is that all
WAME
about?
is just at this one, just at the top there.
Yeah. WAME is the code.
So WANE.
Yeah.
Wayne.
Whiskey Alpha Mike Echo. And
What about my name? So it's room code, right?
But put whatever you want for your name. Brian's got for Brian. I've
Okay,
got for
Dimitri.
JP.
Dimitri.
And you go for the
I'm
Demonator,
connecting. Okay.
the big denominator.
Sorry, a room not found. Hasn't been found. So Wayne, WANE.
WAM for Mike.
M, Michael.
Yeah, for M.
Yes.
And then it should jump
It's like
on
Wayne.
our server. Yay! There we go.
Oh,
We're in.
there we go.
So we have enough people. Brian, I think you're VIP. So once you're...
All right, so it designated me VIP, right?
It has, yeah. You were the first on, so
I think I should have chosen another laptop for it because wait, please, I'm taking my picture.
I'm so excited to have a group of
Getting my
expert
picture
speakers
taken.
like
Unable
you.
to access.
Let's get things going. First, you're going to come up with speech titles for each other.
Okay.
On your devices, finish the 3 speech titles you've been given. Fill in the blanks with something fun. Now is the time to be creative.
Oh, there we go. Okay, let's go.
Man, why are all the cool teens talking about? I don't know what teens are talking about. I'm too old.
What are they talking about? I have no idea. Come up with something, and then someone else is going to have to present it, I believe.
All right.
And don't make it too easy for everybody, but see how you do. Okay.
So what's going on now? So I'm done with my task, right?
Once we're all done, they'll just advance.
Don't forget, you have multiple titles.
Yeah, I have.
No,
so I'm gonna like talk about one of your guys' titles, yeah?
Now, pick one of the titles that has been sent to your device.
Okay.
This will be the title of your presentation.
So we've each received something that someone else submitted. I mean, yeah, choose that to.
I'm running out of time.
All right, out of time.
All right. I think I got one that shouldn't be too difficult, but we'll see.
It was just randomly. It's just I didn't even think. Choose.
No, I got one.
You will be the first speaker, and you will be their assistant. What exactly are you going to be doing? Excellent mind question. As the speaker, you will be presented with a series of slides chosen by the assistant. When you see a text slide, read that text out loud as part of your talk, and move on quickly. When you see a picture slide, just say words until something makes sense. Also, you can draw and type on slides. These slides will be picked in real time by the assistant. You should always be busy using your controller to set up the next beat of the speech.
It's
You'll see
really
text and
strange.
picture options that could follow it.
Oh, it is.
If you don't think the setup text
They're
fits
quite
the direction
creative,
of the
some of these
speech,
games.
tap it forward or back to get new options. All speeches will follow this exact structure. Quick personal intro, speech title, picture, text segue, picture, text segue, picture, thank you. Meanwhile, everyone else reacts.
If I have to remember that, I'm done.
Points aren't just based on values. How many times you hit the button
I'm
is just
pretty
as
sure
important. So hit them a
You'll
lot.
be
In
excused.
the window video
Right,
disappeared.
I think we'll probably.
It'll be over before you know it.
Let's see.
Assistant, go ahead and start picking that first picture. And speaker, don't forget.
Okay,
Okay,
let's see.
Dima, I'm assisting you, Dima. Oh, you have Dima. We lost him.
Okay, on my screen, I have a finger pointing up and a finger pointing down.
So you have to vote. So I think we've just lost Dima's internet connection, and I
did.
basically have to
Oh,
give him.
shoot.
Yeah. So you would be. I'm his assistant, giving him pictures. So I have pictures online, and you would be rating his speech, giving him points, depending how good he is. He's bailed. He's out. He's had
Yeah,
enough.
we're gonna have to downvote that one.
Yeah. So see, the speaker's not even turned up.
Yeah, he got booed off the stage before he even arrived.
Nightmare. He just didn't. Not involved at all. So lingo.
So like this screen share I'm seeing, is this yours?
Yeah, the screen share is mine. So this is what we're all meant to be seeing.
Hmm.
'Cause that's the main game, and then we all
Alright.
have our own individual controller depending on what each player is doing.
Interesting. Okay, so I got. Let's see if I got any messages.
Okay. Oh, okay. I think. I don't know. I think maybe Dean was typing on there. But I think we've lost him. Maybe he's coming back in.
He was going back in.
Yeah,
No
something like that.
engagement. Zero score. Man. So he
Nice.
got lagged out, really.
Did got
Out the
lagged
comment
out. Yeah,
card.
absolutely. Nightmare. Lost him.
Hey, there we go.
From the
Okay, he's
speech
coming back.
or a funny
I'm
comment.
with you because something. Yeah, maybe.
Returned. Yeah.
Let's do it again.
But I did the task.
Okay. Brian, your time for
I'm
speech.
back with you, so everything disappeared and.
Dima, you're gonna send pictures. And I'm
What
gonna.
am I
Hey,
supposed to
hello,
do
my
now?
name is Brian. My talk is fear is
Pick
the
first
only
picture.
thing keeping you from strangers.
Nice. I like it.
All right.
Woo!
Okay, type on your slide. Exactly what will I be typing on my slide?
So I guess you're presenting why fear is the only thing keeping you from strangers.
And this is the reason
and-
why, right
and
here.
Dima's sending you these pictures to.
Dima's sending me these pictures. Okay.
Yes. Go on.
So, you're afraid to reach out and touch this pot because you think it's gonna burn you,
Brilliant.
but you're mistaking the pot for the fire on the stove. And it's the same way when you're afraid of reaching out to strangers. You're afraid of something, but what you're actually afraid of is not actually talking to this person.
Brilliant.
And you realize when you talk to them, it's not that bad.
That's fantastic.
Oh, appreciate that. Okay, the simple fact changed my life. Like this dude playing a guitar in this room. Let's pretend he's never done this before. He just played in his mom's basement for his whole life.
Yeah.
But when he whipped out this guitar for the first time and did it in front of people, he realized that he didn't care what their reactions were. Because you see, the reactions are not actually that good. But to him, it could be good or bad. But the most important thing is he got over his fear.
Nice.
Are you confused? Let me put it simply. This guy
Helpful. Good.
is what you should be.
Mhm.
Yes, this guy is not
You're
afraid of conforming to social norms. You know, he just decided to interact with other people without worrying about being judged.
What a hero.
Yeah.
Give me an upvote. Fantastic.
And let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So guys, yeah, you appreciate my university speech, motivational
So,
speech.
I'm going to sign up to your degree.
Okay.
Oh,
So
appreciate
half of your
that.
score comes from how many
You are
times
interrupted.
you hit the
I
buttons. Up, down,
can't
it
hear
doesn't
right
matter.
now.
And the other half comes from the value judgments on the graph. You know how a graph works. Put it together, and that's your score.
All
And
right.
don't forget,
Very
the
good.
assistant gets points too. Comment card time.
Rate how well Demetrius is. Well, I don't know, but I'll just give you.
I
a
didn't
smile.
assist you at all. I didn't assist you at all because I.
Oh, you didn't assist me.
Well,
Okay, I
how
just.
could I?
All right.
I just let the pictures flow. They're good pictures though.
Okay.
And you were interrupting. You kept interrupting with my internet.
Okay. Who's going now? It says pick first.
It's my speech.
Okay, so I gotta help you with this.
Go send me the pictures. All right, ready.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Big JP, and my talk is.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make it easy for you.
Next slide. Meditation, the key to a better mind, body, and soul. Oh yeah. Fantastic. Here we have a picture of the single brain meditating. There's actually a man underneath this picture, and he has meditated so hard that his brain has left his body and has foregone all consciousness. But I was unprepared for this shocking twist at the end of this story. The man whose brain left his body never actually returned to his body and was then transformed and put into the body of a snail dog, which runs around the plains, North Africa, grazing on plants and fighting with other large animals like lions and tigers and bears if they're in Africa. I don't really know. I'm an expert on meditation. That's when I learned something truly shocking. God, if it was more shocking than that, I don't know. That's the snail thing threw me. That's when I learned that snail dogs were not actually animals, but they were plants grown from the ground. They pop up like seeds and encourage people to meditate by setting up yoga studios. And when people's brains finally lose their body, they take the brains and use them as a source of energy to run around the plains of the world.
Oh, it's like a pyramid scheme for meditation.
It is from snails and meditation. Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for the warning. I'll be sure to watch out for that.
You're welcome. I try my best. There we go. No engagement. No votes.
Uh-oh. Dimitri.
No votes. No votes.
You're not voting.
Into my snail story. I'm
Oh,
hurt.
no.
Because I was cut off. You
Okay.
just,
Okay. That's right.
there was no internet connection. I was trying to tell you about it, but
Man,
then
I
was
called it.
back.
I called this lag being a problem. I
That's right,
felt it.
yeah. The
I
lag
was
is
completely
on.
cut off. Yes, everything disappeared and
That's
was
it.
back.
Wow. That's tough. It's tough.
I did just enough meditation to foresee this in the future.
We'll see this and get the Wi-Fi on. There we go. Yeah, that was good. That's good. You're forgiven. As long as you enjoyed the speech. The important thing. Who's the winner?
Well, thanks, guys. I know it wasn't even remotely fair, but appreciate it anyway.
This
it
big
was
award
funny.
we're
Is
going to give out needs a funny
had
name.
some
So
fun
go ahead and do that now.
Let's
All right.
see.
in the world. Give out
Let's call it the Snail Award.
the
Oh,
snail
that's
word.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I to do now?
There we go. Let's give us the awards. Okay, I've gone for
Like,
the Basement Guitar Award. Another important part of the speech.
And the Lag Award.
The Lag Award. That's what we should have done. Yeah, that's what we should have got. The award for the best lag.
Award for the best lag. It was in
Yes,
all the time
congratulations.
when I was supposed to
What
speak.
event
So
doesn't have a
amazing choice.
slideshow? Remember all the incredible speeches you heard
much.
moments ago. Roll that footage.
Fantastic. Look at that. Amazing.
Act out.
That's us.
Yes.
Great
Great
talk.
talk,
Wow.
Brian.
That's it. You're the winner. That's it. A real word salad. Thank you. That's
Now, the moment of truth.
I'm touched. Here's the awards. Well done, everybody.
Each one of you has one last big award to bestow, and that includes the audience.
All right.
Okay, so what exactly? Oh, hand out my. Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
know
Gotta
your
hand-
award. The lag
Okay.
award is
Pick
the
the
one,
speech
isn't it?
worthy of
That's what I
your
wanna
praise.
give now. Okay. Give out the award. Okay, 5 seconds. All right.
Now, finally, the big,
There we go.
big awards.
All right, the Snail Award. Let's go. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Basement guitar word.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. High honor.
Need to pick a winner. Just kidding. I love it.
Winner is Brian.
Where's Brian?
Yeah, it was rigged, but that's all right.
It's so rigged. It's, I planned, yeah. He slipped me $20 before we started.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want to win the game. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll rig it for you.
Yeah. My 5 years in Russia taught me how to do bribes.
That's it. Yeah, successfully. No.
Most titles used by Bryan.
And that was today's game. And finish up. All right, cool. Well, I think we can finish up there. Dima, Bryan, thank you so much for coming along.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Brilliant to have you on.
Nice to
Yeah.
have you.
Thanks for the information about the group. Thank you for the information about the kindergarten. I did not know that you ran your own school. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
If you want, I can give you the details, put in a description or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you could send me the kindergarten, send me the details for the group. And if you want to include anything of like the teachers you use or any other clubs that you want to chuck on there, I'll put it all in the description. And so if anyone wants to check it out and access it, then they
By
can.
the way, one more words about
Yeah, go, yeah. If
one
any
more
other
thing about kindergartens. I've been also running an English daycare on Fridays. The first one in Russia for their kids who have spoken English at home. The only one in Russia, but it's only for kids of native English speakers and Russian Anglo parents who speak English to their kids, or been speaking English to them since birth. So, but I think everybody already knows about it, and it's not about business. I don't earn any money on it. So, because Bryan's kindergarten is, I think it's more interesting. Because my daycare is just on Fridays, 4 hours a day, and mostly with kids who I already know, who are familiar with me. So so I tried to create something like that, like a kindergarten with a selection of kids who if they are bilinguals, but I think it cannot be any business because you can't have enough customers, and it is very cheap, so I even don't earn any money. It's just for the sake of my daughter, so she could keep her Russian state kindergarten on Fridays at least. So with also native speakers, but it's usually with 3, 4, 5 kids max.
But that's a great service, though. And again, it's about your kid. Like your kid is the motivation for it.
It's not about business, yes, because
Yeah.
all the potential customers already know them. Nobody would be interested in this kindergarten. I mean, wealthy Russian families who never speak English to their kids, and
that wouldn't work.
potential customers of any private English kindergarten would never attend my daycare because first of all, they wouldn't pass at the stage of selection of kids.
Yeah.
Even if their kids are spoken English by babysitters, anyway, it's not about that level, like almost native, like
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a group on Fridays that people can join.
One of Fridays in the north Moscow, and it's only for kids who are spoken English by their parents since birth.
So it's like
on an everyday basis, or who were born. Those kids who were born in an English-speaking country and they were raised there for some time, but they moved to Russia.
So basically, near native to native level kids in English.
Kids of native English speakers, yes, also.
Cool. Yeah. So like near native levels and committed families who are committed to to that style of group. Yeah. Cool, fantastic. And that's on Fridays. People can join. I'll put the link in there. Bryan will put your kindergarten details as well, and Dima will put the group for for like the expats and bilingual kids in as well. So if people want to jump on that, join in with some activities, they can do.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. If there's anything else you want me to chuck in the description, do just drop me a message, and I can put it in there. And on that note, thank you so much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And hopefully, if we have time in the future,
for having us here.
Be
Thank
happy
you
to
very
have
much.
you on again some other time.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm sure we'll see you again.
I hope so. That'd be good.
Yeah.
It's good fun.
Likewise, yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks. See ya.
See you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.